I'm Cameron. I spent years building my career and creating a life I loved. And when my Prince Charming finally showed up, he had 4 kids in tow. Fast forward through lots of mistakes made and lessons learned, step family life was much more complicated than I realized. If you're looking for help with blended family life, you're in the right place. Welcome to the Stepmom Diaries, where we keep it real as we dish about all the things. This is your weekly dose of blended family inspiration and encouragement. You're not the wicked stepmother, so let me help you find your fairy tale ending. Come on, let's do this. Welcome. Welcome back to the Stepmom Diaries podcast. I'm so glad you're here. We have talked a lot here, and if you follow me on social, we've talked a lot about navigating some of the differences between households, especially when the other house has different values and different structures than yours. We've talked about Disney dads and fun moms, and it can be really difficult when the other house has these different values and structures than yours to, deal with that inconsistency on top of all the other step family drama that you may be dealing with. So today we're diving into something that I have not covered yet, and I've been wanting to, and it's one that I know a lot of you have had questions about, and that is dealing with kids' nutrition in step families, especially when the rules are different at each house. So our guest today is Katie Kimball. She is the inspiring founder behind kitchenstewardship.com, and she's creator of the Kids Cook Real Food eCourse, which was praised by the Wall Street Journal as being the best online cooking class for kids. Katie is a former teacher, 2-time TEDx speaker, accomplished writer, and most importantly, a dedicated mom of 4 kids. Through her work, Katie helps families transform their relationship with food and empowers kids in the kitchen, offering them practical solutions for parents of picky eaters. She is passionate about connecting families around nutritious meals, teaching essential cooking skills, and helping parents create a healthy home without the overwhelm. So in today's episode, Katie is going to share with us some amazing insights and strategies tailored for step families. We are going to talk about handling differences in eating habits across households, engaging kids in meal prep, and turning meal times into opportunities for bonding and connection. And I want to put in a plug for her programs. She hosts a Kids Cook Real Food video series that is going to help you teach kids all kinds of skills in the kitchen that will help get them interested in cooking and in building some skills that they can use forever. She has also got a free Life Skills Now summer camp coming up that is going to teach kids valuable skills that they're not getting in school. And these resources are truly phenomenal. I have looked through them and they are fantastic. I'm going to link to them at the show notes, which you can find at stepfamilysolutions.com/episode 102. So let's dive in right now. I'm excited to chat with Katie today. Katie, welcome. So glad to have you here.
Thank you so much. It's great to be together, Cam.
Yeah. So, I usually, for y'all that are here listening to us, that I usually like to kick off my guests asking for a stepmom origin story. Well, Katie is not a stepmom, but this is an episode that I have been wanting to do for a long time. So I want to know, Katie, tell me what your family background is and tell me, how did you get inspired to start Kitchen Stewardship? Because I think that this business is so interesting. And I want to tell you folks that are listening, we are going to put a ton of links in the show notes. So make sure you go to the show notes so that you can access all the stuff we're going to talk about, because this is just such an important conversation. So anyway, let's get going. Katie, tell me about your family background and what inspired you to start all of this.
Yeah, I've been running Kitchen Stewardship since 2009. So even though I feel like a rookie sometimes, clearly I've been around a while. And that really grew out of my own stumblings and failings and mess as a new mom and trying, realizing that I have this baby inside me and then outside me, and they're so tiny and everybody counts so much, like ratio wise. And it was, I really just wanted to make a commitment to feeding my child, nourishing my child really well. But I didn't know how to do that. I'd grown up with, I think my mom cooked more homemade than many 80s and 90s moms, but it was like a hybrid. Like her homemade spaghetti sauce started with 2 cans of Campbell's cream and tomato soup. So it was like this weird, like commercial homemade feel. So that's
Yeah,
where,
I too am a child of the 80s and 90s and totally relate to that. So sorry to interrupt. Keep going.
yeah. So, I mean, that's kind of how I started out. And then like Hamburger Helper was 10 for $10.
Oh, yes.
Like, great. We'll do, my mom didn't make Hamburger Helper, but that's so cheap. That's what I'll do. And so I really just sort of like had lost my way and not really understanding how to feed myself until I had a baby. And I wasn't very good at it. We'd still joke, my husband and I, about feeding the ducks outside our first apartment the burnt biscuit bottoms, because I could not even make canned biscuits, my friend, without burning the bottoms all the time. I'm like, I think I know how to use an oven. So I started out really rough, and I was, spending a lot of time at the cutting board, learning my way and thinking, how could I help other people speed this up? Because I'm a teacher at heart. I was an elementary teacher before I was a mom. And so I'm always like, my brain's always in teacher mode. I'm like, other moms have trouble with this too. And so I had a book idea and started the blog in lieu of the book, which is a good idea because we needed money at the time. And books are not a fast or easy way.
Books are not a moneymaker. Yeah.
Not at all. But it turned out I love blogging. I love talking with other people. And so that's kind of how I ended up online, helping people stay healthy without going crazy. And then later, eventually started teaching kids to cook to like close that loop, because I thought if our generation's not real comfortable cooking, we're not passing on what we don't have to the kids. And so they would just repeat the cycle in 20 years. Like, oh, I don't know how to cook either,
It is. It's sort of, I mean, without going down the rabbit hole of like, policy discussions and stuff, which is sometimes my happy place. But it is crazy that in our society, we really, I think so many of us that grew up in that time period, I mean, not to age ourselves, but here we are. It really was about the kind of quick and easy solution without necessarily looking at like what all goes into it. And even the stuff that seems nutritious and cheap and easy, there's a little more than meets the eye.
For sure. Yeah. There's a lot of greenwashing and marketing that sounds good on the front of the package until you turn over to the back.
Yeah. And it's hard. And I think it gets really confusing too. Oh. And especially, I love the phrase that you use, staying healthy without going crazy, because I feel like a lot of times, and especially stepmoms, I'm talking to you, like there's so much going on a daily basis and so much drama, in a step family. Even when things are good, things are crazy, you know what I mean? And so like the idea of then having to spend a bunch of time figuring out this component can feel really onerous, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm all about simplification. Kitchen Stewardship began with baby steps. Every Monday, I would post one new thing. Like, let's just do one thing this week. Because by the end of a year, now you have 52 new things. It would be so overwhelming to say, let's make 52 changes, ladies. No, like, not going to happen.
I mean, it just feels like a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. But if you trickle it out one little step at a time, then over a year, you've made massive change in your family.
I love that approach, one little thing a week. So, as we're talking about blended families, one of the big challenges and I want to talk about sort of generally how stepmoms can jump in and help, promote healthy eating when you have resistance from the stepmoms. But I want to start with one of the most common dynamics that I see, which is when one family has different rules and expectations in one house versus the other house. So, you're a stepmom, you're in your home, you have like a set of values that, y'all have, you have a set, a structure for the kids, and they go over to the other house and it's totally different over there. And they get to eat junk food and they get to do, all the fun things and stay up late playing video games. And it's just totally different. Like when you have something like that, that doesn't necessarily translate from one house to the other, how can you sort of address these issues, with your partner, with your stepkids and keep it kind of together in your house in a way that eventually the kids will figure out, the right habits to have and what they, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think, I mean, for stepmoms especially, I want to remind you, you don't need to be the nutritionist. You don't need to be the pediatrician. You don't even need to be the teacher. You're more of like the interior designer. You're just creating the right environment, or like the gardener, you're creating the right environment for, the people in your care to thrive. And so ideally, whether it's a step family, blended family, traditional family, like where we want to raise our kids or our stepkids to be age 18 and have their own sense of healthy eating, have their own relationship with food that is sound, that is grounded, and that is healthy, and not have just rules coming down from above like aliens landing, And so that's the great thing about that discrepancy between like, oh, we have structure at our house and then they go to the other house and there's no structure. If you're creating internal structures and internal habits, they travel with the child no matter where they are. So I like to teach parents to use phrases like, listen to your body. What is your body saying? When, in my family, going to the grandparents or going to a party would be like the most similar thing to having a blended family and step relationships. And so I see that as an opportunity to talk about, how does your body feel when, you go to excess with sugar? How does your body feel when you're not getting enough sleep? Are you happy with that? That's a big conversation for like a 5-year-old or an 8-year-old, but the older kids get, the more that can sink in, and that they can internalize and understand that, like, oh, wow, like, no, I do feel kind of horrible. I'm not behaving very well. I'm not able to behave well when I'm low on sleep, for example. And so when we talk about how much we're eating or the quality of food we're eating, listen to your body is a big one. I work with parents of picky eaters, and again, more than that external structure is the internal habits. And so one of my biggest phrases I teach parents of picky eaters is to say, you need to put one bite on your plate, but you don't have to eat it. You don't have to finish that. Oh, yeah.
Oh,
because the kids.
As a reformed picky eater,
You are.
When I was growing up, when I say reformed, I always tease people I have like the palate of a 14-year-old boy, because I just eat everything very plain. I don't do a lot of seasoning and stuff. But when I was younger, I was super picky. And my parents' whole thing was like, we would go out to eat and I had to try one new thing. But I love that you have to put it on your plate, but you don't have to eat it. That's fantastic.
Yeah. Because really, if you think about it, like, what if you, as a kid, had said no and clamped your mouth shut? Like, what's a parent or step parent going to do? Like, are we going to pry our kids' mouths open? That's super disrespectful. So I think in parenting or step parenting, especially, like, never make a rule that you cannot follow through on.
Yes.
And to say, you have to eat that. You have to take a bite. If you take 3 bites, you get dessert. Like, there's literally no way you can force a bite respectfully.
Yeah, that's so true.
And so it gives kids a sense of settling in themselves, and that the nervous system is much more calm at the table, which makes your appetite increase, and you're able to engage in that relationship with food without fear. Because we don't want kids to bring fear to the table. So that's where I would say, especially in that blended family, like, what you don't want to do would be say like, oh, you're having so much junk food over there, or, the don'ts and the do nots and the shouldn'ts, because that's a lot. That's the baggage for the kid to carry back and forth house to house. But if it's, you don't have to finish this, let's listen to our body. That's more of a sensation of lightness and empowerment and agency that then the child can carry from house to house and begin to make their own decisions. Again, not probably a 5-year-old, but some. One of my favorite parts about working with parents of picky eaters is when they report back like, oh yeah, my 4-year-old told grandma, don't worry about it. I'm still learning to eat. This just isn't my favorite yet. Cause those are like other phrases we use. Like, you're still learning to eat. Your taste buds are still growing up. It gives the child so much freedom and so much agency and choice. And really, that's what we want. And if they're not getting that at the other house, I mean, the good thing is your house has better rules.
Yeah.
Right. Because like in your original scenario, you were kind of saying, well, if my house has more structure and more rules and more restrictions, what am I going to do? Like, the child would probably prefer the other house. But if your house is the one saying, we're going to eat a lot of variety of food, I'm going to create beautiful meals, and I want you to take a bite on your plate, so that you get to know your food. You have an opportunity to make that relationship, but you don't have to eat it.
Yeah.
That's like, now your house is the more like freedom feeling space. Not that it should be a competition, but if you really feel that your values are right, you want those values to be the ones that internalize.
I love that. Well, I love this discussion about how to handle things at each house. Moving back to stepmom's house, like, what are some ways, she's joined this family that, already exists, or this family structure. What are some good ways that she can promote healthy eating, without creating even more tension? I mean, the kids may be sort of unsure about her, maybe, getting used to all of this. I love some of the framing that you use in terms of, presenting it in a more positive way. What are some other things that stepmoms can do to kind of promote good habits with the kids?
Man, options and variety are your secret weapon for sure, and your superpower. So especially if you're in a transition period, the first couple of years after you join a family, obviously, you wouldn't want to come in too overbearing and overhaul the entire pantry. But if you're adding in some raspberries and some carrots and hummus, and you're just providing new options, but maybe the other stuff is still there. I would call it a slow creation of the new normal, where suddenly, I don't know, nobody bought goldfish in the last month or 2 months, and nobody mentioned goldfish, but also if you happen to be the grocery shopper, like many females are, you just didn't buy them. Oops. You know what I mean? And they just started to disappear. And what's great about kids, especially the younger they are, the more malleable they are. The older they are, the little bit harder it gets, but it's still never impossible. So the more quickly a new normal gets set, I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but you'll do something on Christmas or on Easter. And then the next year the kids are like, we always do this. And you're like, we did it once.
100%.
Right? Traditions are kind of like that for kids. So that can be a secret weapon too, is how can we make something a tradition that then they'll latch onto and expect it later. And of course, then you're might be breaking some other traditions, but as long as you're replacing it with a new normal. So for example, with beginning a meal, I teach lead with your ACE. So at the beginning of the meal, you want to put out what you most want the kids to eat. Usually that's vegetables. For some kids, it's protein. Make it a little fun. So it's veggies and dip, or it's a beautiful rainbow, or you know what? It's just a bowl of frozen peas, because that's the bandwidth you got. But frozen peas taste a little like popsicles if the kids are hungry. So the first thing you eat tastes the best. So you lead with your ACE. You put nothing else out. The pantry door is closed. The fridge is closed. And you just see what happens. Again, you're not saying you have to eat this. You're just hey, here's an appetizer. I'm going to finish dinner. Very chill, very poker face. And you allow the kids to encounter the food and build that relationship. It's kind of like how you want them to build their new relationship with you as the stepmom, where you're just circling them and you're there and you're being cautious, but trying to create some new structure bit by bit. It'd be the same thing with food. It's just provide the variety, put out what you most want them to eat. Try not to restrict too much of previous habits, but just let those slowly fade away. That'd be optimal.
So let's talk about when they are, we're trying to get them more comfortable with some of these new foods, maybe vegetables, maybe it's getting some broccoli with dip, or, whatever that looks like. And you put it out and they're resistant to it. And they say, oh God, what is that? I am just so not going to try that ever. Yuck, black. We don't have to eat that at mom's house. Oh. How do you help them, as, kids are picky, right? What's the best way to, help them feel like they want to try some of these new things? And
right. I mean, keep that poker face. Because as much as kids tend to be picky, they also are curious by nature. And so if we could just not get in the way of their natural curiosity, things are going to go better. So instead of engaging, well, you're not at mom's house, you're at this house, right? Obviously that's the wrong thing to say. But their kids are very good at pushing adults' buttons. So if we just pretend,
yes, they are.
we have to pretend we have no buttons. So I just call it the poker face. You just say, that's okay. The phrase that I like to teach kids is, it's not my favorite. you know what, if you don't want to work with that right now, just say it's not my favorite instead of ew and yuck and gross, because those are more fun. So you just kind of redirect like, oh, that's not your favorite yet. That's okay. No problem. I'm just going to leave it there and then leave the space. What we find over and over in families is that kids will then, like, I've seen great pictures of like little boys with the carrot on their Hot Wheels car, driving it around the track. Awesome. Like, it might not go in their mouth that day, but they have started to make friends with that food. And scientifically, their body has been exposed to it. They've touched it. They've smelled it. They might have licked their fingers. I mean, you've seen little boys, they pick their nose and lick their fingers. Of course, the baby carrot flavor is going to get a little bit in their mouth. It's almost like a slow inoculation. So every exposure is a win, is a good exposure, even if it doesn't touch the tongue. That's okay. Even if it doesn't get chewed and swallowed. So anytime the kids are encountering it, you could ask the kids to take something from the kitchen to the table, from the table back to the kitchen. Even that is exposure. Invite one kid to go with you grocery shopping. That can be like, it's like a win-win, because you're bonding, you're having some time together. And maybe let them choose a new fruit or a new vegetable and like, let's explore this together. But even just stuff they'll never touch, if they're putting it in the produce bag with their hands and putting it in the cart, like that counts as an exposure, helping you wash it.
Yes.
A 2-year-old or a 5-year-old, like making a mess in the water. If the broccoli's in the water with them, they're hanging out with that broccoli. And so it shortens the time frame to which they'll actually be willing to taste it every encounter they get. So that can be pretty powerful to just know that. Like, that knowledge is impactful.
And I love that, because I do feel like we get impatient if the kids don't want to try something right away, or if they reject it right away. It's like, then kind of the next time you try it, you sort of go into it like knowing there's going to be that resistance there. And so you kind of bring a little bit of that to the table. And I like sort of going into it knowing, just like step family life, right? We've got to be a little patient, and like it might take time, but we're chipping away at it. I think that's fantastic. Now so let's talk about, let's dive into the picky eaters a little bit. You did a TEDx talk called Picky Eating Isn't About the Food. As a former sort of current picky eater, tell me what it is all about.
Well, in that TEDx, I talk about the 5 Ps: palate, pain, processing, pressure, and power. So the first 3 are physiological, which means picky eating is not about the food, it's about the child's body. So it can be about the way that they chew, the way that they swallow, the way their tummy feels after they eat, undiagnosed food allergies, sensory processing issues. We've got a whole generation of kids who can't handle scratchy tags. They are overwhelmed by sounds in a school cafeteria. All of that doesn't feel like it has to do with eating, but it does, because our senses are so connected, and we use all of our senses when we eat. So if any of the senses are overloaded, they're not able to encounter food with curiosity, because they're like in total fight or flight. So oftentimes the root cause of picky eating is in the child's body, not in the food. Sometimes the root cause of picky eating is in the relationship between the adult and the child, interfering with the relationship between the food and the child. In other words, if we're putting pressure, like your parents said, take one bite and it worked, that's great. There are parents who say you have to take one bite and the child resists. And that's it. The entire meal is a power struggle instead of a chance to actually eat, encounter food, try something new. And so sometimes that pressure and that power struggle causes real problems. So we have to make sure that our relationship is removed from the child's relationship with food. We have to make sure that there's not anything going on in the child's body that can be a total roadblock.
And with picky eaters, I mean, sometimes they grow out of it and it's just sort of something that, I feel like most kids are kind of picky as they're learning to, I think, so how do you know if you've got somebody that's going to grow out of it or somebody that's got something deeper going on?
Yeah, there are definitely some metrics. If your child, most kids, like about half of kids are going to go through some picky eating tendencies. The majority of them do grow out of it unless the parents sort of play into it. So let's say your kid goes through the picky phase and you're like, well, I guess we're mac and cheese and chicken nuggets people now. And if you feed them only what they want, like how is how will that ever solve the problem? Right? Like if your child is having struggle learning to read and you thought, okay, we'll just stick with the kindergarten books forever. And he's not learning to read, so I might as well not read to him anymore. That's a lost cause. Like we wouldn't do that with reading.
That's such a great analogy.
We wouldn't do that with potty training. We wouldn't do it with sleep, but we do it all the time with food, partly because back at the start, we talked about that food marketing culture makes it super simple for parents to be like, oh, okay, it's dino nuggets. It's box mac and cheese, but we got to think about it realistically. If we want the goal to be a good relationship with food, we can't just give them what they want at age 5 or 7. They're not mature enough to make those decisions. So we've got to keep the decisions in-house in the adult's brain, the fully formed, fully functioning brain, and make sure that we aren't causing the snowball effect of that problem. So kids are going to show picky tendencies. You just let them. You still, just like you would provide a house full of books for a struggling reader, you provide a kitchen full of a variety of food for a struggling eater. And you believe that with a growth mindset, that they will get better, that they will eat more foods. If you've got a kid who drops foods and never brings them back, so they used to eat eggs, they drop eggs, and they don't come back for months, that's a sign that you might need some feeding therapy. If you've got a kid who eats less than 20 different foods, that's a sign you might need some feeding therapy, because there's a certain level at which a child would be called a problem feeder, and only about 5% of those reform without professional help. So that's really important. Most of the time, you won't need professional help. But if it's feeling like this is way worse than everyone else around me, get an evaluation. It's worth it. The quicker you get started, the quicker you can get through it with feeding therapy.
Well, this is all so amazing. And you are such a phenomenal resource for families, for step families. If you could give stepmoms one practical takeaway today about blended family life, nutrition, picky eaters, whatever it is, what would that be?
I would say stay the course in a gentle way. I think especially for stepmoms, you feel like you're entering in and maybe you're a little bit of the outcast we get in our middle school brains and we go, oh, nobody likes me. I don't like this feeling. And it's not that much different for bio moms. I can tell you that. We worry. We want our kids to like us, but more than that, I want my kids, and I know you want your kids and your stepkids to grow into healthy, independent adults. So if we know what the right choice is, it's better to lovingly, gently stay the course and have, some structure. I like to call it choice within boundaries. So one thing we didn't talk about even is chores and responsibilities and helping in the kitchen, like having some light requirements, especially if you're comparing to the other household, right? Like if you had your own house without the other house, you might have a little bit higher requirements, but at least having some light requirements for contributions ultimately is going to raise your kids' self-esteem. It's going to give your stepchildren more confidence, because we can't have confidence if we don't do anything. So we have to train our kids to do skills, give them opportunities to do them, fail a little bit, get better, do them well. Like that's the definition of self-esteem, not like, we did a craft with glitter and I said, good job. That's beautiful.
Right.
You know what I mean? So there's like empty, hollow self-esteem and confidence. And then there's real, authentic self-esteem and self-confidence. And that comes from doing real, authentic tasks and being challenged by a variety of food and being given chores and all of those things. And so if we know that that's right, stay the course and love the stepkids. And by the end, it will like come out in the wash. I really believe that.
Yes. And the patience is such a key. And I love the idea of, and I know we didn't get to talk too much about, chores and all of that good stuff, but I love the idea of involving them in kitchen activities and in cooking and just, even when they're 6 or 7, hey, would you like to try to crack an egg, and getting them interested in that whole process, then I think they are more likely to want to be in the kitchen and want to learn about this stuff. And
if you're the house where your stepson gets to use the chef's knife, then you're the cool house. So that's
true.
That's handy. That's kind of handy. Like, oh, you want to learn to cut an onion? What? I get to use the knife. How cool. So kids love being given trust. And I think that's a gift that a stepmom can give regardless of how the relationship is going with the kid. If you can pour in a little trust and say, I want to teach you to work with fire at the grill or use a chef's knife or, like want to give you.
Yeah, they really do want that responsibility. Yeah.
They thrive. Mm-hmm.
I think that makes such a big difference. Well, so you have got some incredible freebies that you're offering my audience, and I so appreciate it. So tell me a little bit about what you've got, and we'll make sure that all the links are in the show notes and all that good stuff.
Yeah, we want to send people to kidscookrealfood.com/stepmomlsn. And LSN is an event that I run every summer called Life Skills Now. So as I've been teaching thousands of families, their kids to cook over the years, we realized that people's deep-seated value is really, I want my kids to have life skills. And so I love networking. Like I love being here on this podcast with you. This is what I do. So I gather 50 to 70 experts every summer to teach 100 brand new life skills to kids and teens ages 5 to 18. So we're giving you a chance to say, hey kids, you can get on screens. I'm the cool mom.
Love it.
But they're highly curated, ad-free private dashboard, no rabbit holes to go down. And it's like, you get to learn really solid skills, like how to make a phone call. I can see, a kid going, I miss my mom. Well, let's learn how to make a phone call. And you can call mom. You know what I mean? Like that would be a beautiful gift for a stepmom to give a child.
I love that.
How to do auto maintenance and bike maintenance. And so throughout most of the year, that link will take you to a couple free videos. But when we're open for our brand new summer camps, usually April, May, June, you'll get to see like the whole new 100 skills. And it's all free, whether it's the 100 skills or the off-season 3 or 4 freebies. But it's just, again, it's like that fun bonding opportunity. Like, let's watch this little video and see what the expert tells us to do.
That is amazing. And as of today, when we're recording, you are open for the next few months for this. So ladies, we're going to put that link in the show notes and definitely go check it out. And I also go check out Katie's website because she has got a ton of articles on not just food, but on clean living. And, y'all know, like we've just relocated to Maine full time and we're very, organic, curious, and we're getting bees this summer. And I love all of the natural living, and just trying to remove some of the toxins and chemicals. And, that we didn't get to talk about any of that stuff today, but definitely go and check Katie out. Her website is kitchenstewardship.com, and I will put that in the show notes. But Katie, this is amazing. Thank you so much for all of this. I feel like we're going to have you back because there's so much we didn't get to cover. So, but thank you so much, and look forward to seeing you this summer and around in the future.
Well, thank you. It was an honor. And it was actually really good for me to think about, like, empathetically, what is it like to be a stepmom? So I appreciate that. Like, you've kind of widened my world today.
That's it for this week. If you've enjoyed our chat, I hope you'll help spread the word. Share this episode with friends and head on over to wherever you listen to podcasts and leave me a review. And don't forget, for more great stepmom content, head on over to thiscustomlife.com and follow me on social media. Just search This Custom Life on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Pinterest. Until next time, you keep being you and know that we are in this together. See you here next week.